Okay, let me make sure everything's working, then we'll get started. Okay, cool. Looks like the audio is working. I have the chat pulled up. No one joined the chat last time, but that's okay. Yeah, so today I wanted to look at the different First Vision accounts. Of course, we'll start with a little bit of housekeeping, but I will say that I meant to stream during the past couple weeks and I wasn't able to. My life has been really crazy this past couple weeks, so I wasn't able to stream. I also wasn't able to read the books that I wanted to read, which really frustrates me because, I was working on Our Heritage. I did not finish it like I said I would, but I'm going to keep plugging away at it. I did, however, read, just because it was a quick read, the Kolob Theorem. Is that how you spell it? Theorem? Ooh, let's look that up real quick. The Kolob Theorem. Oh. Shows you how much I know. Wait. Theorem? Is that? I already forgot how to spell it. The Kolob. Yeah, okay. Which was by an LDS author, so I'm going to fill that in. Was it this? Yeah, there we go. And then I also, for fun, read King Lear. Is that how you spell Lear? King Lear. Oh, A-R. Sorry. King Lear by William Shakespeare, which is a play. Okay, and then I wanted to make a new section here, actually. I wanted to do apocryphal writings. Because I've started having a lot more curiosity regarding that, which the Book of Enoch is actually considered apocryphal. So we will cut that and paste it there. And then, well, I guess they'll all be that color, but I'll make it that color anyways. How do I delete? Can I just how do I get rid of this? You know what? Let's do this. We're going to shuffle some things around real quick, and then I swear we'll get started. And then we're going to change that to that. Oh, nope. To that. And then this one, we're going to do no color. Reset. Boom. Okay. Sweet. And then, what was the other thing I wanted to do? I'll just come over here and write the First Vision accounts. Or I guess another way of saying that would be multiple First Vision accounts. This could be both considered an anti-Mormon topic and a church history topic. It's a little bit of both. Because it is history, but it's also a part of the history that's used as an anti-Mormon point, which we're going to start with actually in the CES letter, which is, I've read through the whole CES letter like 1.5 times. I didn't quite get through it the second time just because it's long, and like I said, my life is kind of crazy, so I don't always have the time to finish reading the things that I want to finish reading. But we're gonna go through piece by piece eventually. But we're gonna do the First Vision today. Let's make sure. Yep. Okay. I get paranoid that my mic will stop working, but it looks like it's working just fine. So, okay. So, yeah, we're going to start by reading what the CES letter has to say about the first vision. And then we're going to probably just dive in and read the different accounts. I also have pulled up here what the Joseph Smith papers has to say about the first vision. And just for good measure, the Wikipedia article on the first vision. But CES letter, here we go. Okay, first vision, questions and concerns. Concerns and questions. This is a quote here by President Gordon B. Hinckley. It says, "Our whole strength rests on the validity of that first vision. It either occurred or it did not occur. If it did not, then this work is a fraud. If it did, then it is the most important and wonderful work under the heavens." And that is from The Marvelous Foundation of Our Faith, which I've never read or heard of. Ugh. Okay. There are at least 4 different first vision accounts by Joseph Smith, which the church admits in its November 2013 First Vision Accounts essay. These are the 4 accounts here. One from 1832, 2, 1830, okay, 1838, 1842, okay. And the only handwritten account by Joseph Smith penned in 1832, which looks to be the earliest, but not publicly published until much later, describes the first vision in a very unfamiliar way. We'll skip this because we're going to go through and read it. Actually, no, we won't. Forget that. "And while in the attitude of calling upon the Lord in the 16th year of my age, a pillar of firelight above the brightness of the sun at noonday came down from above and rested upon me, and I was filled with the Spirit of God. And the Lord opened the heavens upon me, and I saw the Lord, and he spake unto me, saying, Joseph, my son, thy sins are forgiven thee. Go thy way, walk in my statutes, and keep my commandments. Behold, I am the Lord of glory. I was crucified of the world, that all those who believe on my name may have eternal life." Okay, that's a short snippet of it, and to be honest, it didn't sound that unfamiliar, but we'll continue. No mention of 2 beings. Okay, fair. He mentioned the Lord appearing. 12 years after the first vision happened. Okay, well, whatever. I don't know what that has to say about the truthfulness of it, because there's lots of things quoted in this very CES letter that are, oh, wow, what did I just do? Oh, now I gotta go find it. Lots of things quoted in the CES letter that came much after the date that they're saying it did. So I don't know why that's a huge problem here, but okay. Jeez, man, I can't believe I did that. Okay, let's not do that again. Ages 15 years old, 16 years of my age, 16th year of my age, not 14 years old. Okay, that could just be misremembering what year, how old you were. I don't know. I feel like I do that all the time. No reference to asking the question about which church he should join. Okay. No description of being attacked by Satan. Sure. I mean, this is really short. I don't know if this is the whole piece. It looks like it's not. It looks like there's some before and some after. But, I mean, if it's short, is it okay that not every detail is mentioned? I don't know. Contradictions. Okay. In the 1832 account, Joseph wrote that before praying, he knew there was no true or living faith or denomination upon the earth as built by Jesus Christ in the New Testament. His primary purpose in going to prayer was to seek forgiveness for his sins. By searching the scriptures, I found that mankind did not come unto the Lord, but that they had apostatized from the true and living faith, and there was no society or denomination that was built upon the gospel of Jesus Christ. In the official 1838 account, however, Joseph wrote, "My object in going to inquire of the Lord was to know which of all the sects was right, that I might know which to join, for at this time it had never entered into my heart that all were wrong." Okay. This is in direct contradiction to his 1832 First Vision account. Late appearance of claims. No one, including Joseph Smith's family members, and the saints had ever heard about the first vision from 12 to 22 years after it supposedly occurred. The first and earliest written account of the first vision in Joseph Smith's journal was 12 years after the spring of 1820. There was absolutely no record of any claimed first vision prior to this 1832 account. Okay, so my question here would be, okay. I know that there was a lot of like mockery going on during Joseph Smith's day when the angel Moroni appeared to him. I don't know if that was the case during the first vision. And I know that he definitely, in the official account, it says that he talked to his family members directly after the angel Moroni, at least his father. But I also, if I'm remembering correctly in the official account, after he comes back from the sacred grove, having just seen God the Father and Jesus Christ, his mother asks him, like, why do you look this way? You look really tired and like out of it. And he says something like, never mind, like I've come to know for myself that these aren't true. So it would be strange to me if he never talked about this ever, even privately with his family, because it seems at least a little bit he was mentioning the outcome. But at the same time, I don't know. Despite the emphasis placed on it now, the first vision does not appear to have been widely taught by members of the church until the 1840s, more than a decade after the church was founded, and 20 years after it allegedly occurred. James B. Allen, former BYU professor and assistant church historian, explains, "There's little, if any, evidence, however, that by the early 1830s Joseph Smith was telling the story in public. At least if he were telling it, no one seemed to consider it important enough to have recorded it at the time, and no one was criticizing him for it. Not even in his own history did Joseph Smith mention being criticized in this period for telling the story of the first vision." Okay, that answered my question from before. The fact that none of the available contemporary writings about Joseph Smith in the 1830s, none of the publications of the church in that decade, and no contemporary journal or correspondence yet discovered mentions the story of the first vision is convincing evidence that at best it received only limited circulation in those early days. Other problems. Who appeared to him? Depending on the account, a spirit, an angel, two angels, Jesus, many angels, or the Father and the Son appeared to him, are all over the place. The dates and his age. This one to me is like silly. Like I forget like how old I was during certain stories of my life all the time, and I usually can get pretty close to like, yeah, I was either 14 or 15 years old, but the exact age I'm not always going to be able to tell you, and I assume neither would Joseph Smith. The dates, his age. The 1832 account states Joseph was 15 years old, while the other accounts state he was 14 years old when he had the vision. The reason or motive for seeking divine help, Bible reading and conviction of sins, a revival, a desire to know if God exists, wanting to know which church to join, are not reported the same in each account. Contrary to Joseph's account, the historical record shows that there is no revival in Palmyra, New York in 1820. Fair Mormon concedes. Okay, so if there was no historical record of a revival in Palmyra, couldn't Joseph just be referring to like regular congregations he was visiting that he described as a revival? I don't know. While these revivals did not occur in Palmyra itself, their mention in the local newspaper would have given Joseph Smith the sense that there was substantial revival activity in the region. There was one in 1817 and there was another in 1824. There are records from his brother William Smith and his mother Lucy Mack Smith, both stating that the family joined Presbyterianism after Alvin's death in November 1823, despite Joseph Smith claiming in the official 1838 account that they joined in 1820. 3 years before Alvin Smith's death. Again, here, this is kind of another thing where it's like, did they join after or before? I don't remember. I feel like it was before. I feel like it was after. And it's like, that's how memory works. Why did Joseph hold a Trinitarian view of the Godhead, as shown previously with the Book of Mormon, if he clearly saw that the Father and the Son were separate embodied beings in the official first vision? As with the Rock and the Hat story, I did not know there are multiple first vision accounts. I did not know of their contradictions, or that the church members did not know about a first vision until 12 to 22 years after it supposedly happened. I was unaware of these omissions in the mission field, and I was never taught or trained in the Missionary Training Center to teach investigators these facts. Okay, so that is all the CES letter has to say about the first vision. It looks like they also link these accounts. So maybe let's open up. I'll open up one. I don't want to get too. Whoa. Okay. Didn't know we were going crazy with the handwriting here. I'm not going to read it like this. Oh, is this the transcript? The transcript? Okay, this has got to be the transcript. So let's go through that. A History of the Life of Joseph Smith Jr. This is 1832. Yes. A History of the Life of Joseph Smith Jr., an account of his marvelous experience and of all the mighty acts which he doeth in the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, of whom he beareth record, and also an account of the rise of the Church of Christ in the eve of time, according as the Lord brought forth and established by his hand. Firstly, he receiving the testimony from on high. Secondly, the ministering of angels. Thirdly, the reception of the holy priesthood by the ministering of angels to administer the letter of the law, gospel, law crossed out, the law and commandments as they were given unto him, and in the ordinances. Fourthly, a confirmation and reception of the high priesthood after the holy order of the Son of the living God, power and ordinance from on high to preach the gospel. Sorry, I'm looking at my daughter through the baby monitor, and she's stirring. Oh, I hope she goes back to sleep. Okay. She's not crying. If she's crying, I'll go get her. But she is definitely stirring. Actually, let me go put her binky in. Maybe that'll soothe her, and she'll fall back asleep. Or did she just stop? This is parenting. This is what it's like. Constant fear. Okay, let's keep going. Power and ordinances from on high to preach the gospel in the administration and demonstration of the Spirit, the keys of the kingdom of God conferred upon him, and the continuation of the blessings of God to him. And see? Okay, so this looks like where he starts writing the account. I was born in the town of Sharon in the state of Vermont, North America, on the 23rd day of December, A.D. 1805, of goodly parents who spared no pains to instruct me in the Christian religion. At the age of about 10 years, my father, Joseph Smith Sr., moved to Palmyra, Ontario County, in the state of New York, and being in indigent circumstances, were obliged to labor hard for the support of the large family, having 9 children, and as it required their exertion of all that were able to render any assistance for the support of the family, therefore we were deprived of the benefit of an education. Suffice it to say, I was merely instructed in reading and writing and the ground rules of arithmetic, which constituted my whole literary acquirements. At about the age of 12 years, my mind became seriously impressed with regard to the all-important concern for the welfare of my immortal soul, which led me to searching the scriptures, believing, as I was taught, that they contained the word of God, thus applying myself to them and my intimate acquaintance with those of different denominations led me to marvel exceedingly, for I discovered that they did not adorn instead of adorning. Okay, so it's crossed out. Adorn their profession by a holy walk and godly conversation, agreeable to what I found contained in that sacred depository. This was a grief to my soul. Thus, from the age of 12 years to 15, I pondered many things in my heart concerning the situation of the world, of mankind, the contentions and divisions, the wickedness, and abominations, and the darkness which pervaded the minds of mankind. My mind became exceedingly distressed, for I became convicted of my sins, and by searching the Scriptures I found that mankind did not come unto the Lord, but that they had apostatized from the true and living faith, and there was no society or denomination that built upon the gospel of Jesus Christ as recorded in the New Testament. And I felt to mourn for my own sins and for the sins of the world. For I learned in the Scriptures that God was the same yesterday, today, and forever, that he was no respecter of two persons, for he was God. For I looked upon the sun, the glorious luminary of the earth, and also the moon rolling in their majesty through the heavens, and also the stars shining in their courses, and the earth also upon which I stood, and the beasts of the field, and the fowls of heaven, and the fish of the waters, and also man walking forth upon the face of the earth, in majesty and in the strength of beauty, whose power and intelligence in governing the things which are so exceedingly great and, how many pages is this? Marvelous, even in the likeness of him who created them. And when I considered upon these things, my heart exclaimed, well hath the wise man said, it is a fool that saith in his heart, there is no God. My heart exclaimed, all these bear testimony and bespeak an omnipotent and omnipresent power, a being who maketh laws and decreeth and bindeth all things in their bounds, who filleth eternity, who was and is and will be from all eternity to eternity. And when I considered all these things, and that being seeketh such to worship him as worship him in spirit and in truth. Man, dude, Joseph with the run-on sentences. It's hard to keep up. Therefore, I cried unto the Lord for mercy, for there was none else to whom I could go, and to obtain mercy. And the Lord heard my cry in the wilderness, and while in the attitude of calling upon the Lord, in the 16th year of my age, a pillar of fire, crossed out light, above the brightness of the sun at noonday, come down from above and rested upon me, and I was filled with the Spirit of God, and the Lord opened the heavens upon me, and I saw the Lord. And he spake unto me, saying, Joseph, my son, thy sins are forgiven thee. Go thy way, walk in the statutes, and keep my commandments. Behold, I am the Lord of glory. I was crucified for the world, that all those who believe on my name may have eternal life. Behold, the world lieth in sin, and at this time, and none doeth good, no, not one. They have turned aside from the gospel, and keep not my commandments. They draw near to me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and mine anger is kindled against the inhabitants of the earth, to visit them according to their ungodliness, and to bring to pass that which hath been spoken by the mouth of the prophets and apostles. Behold, and lo, I come quickly, as it is written of me in the cloud, clothed in the glory of my Father, and my soul was filled with love. And for many days I could rejoice with great joy, and the Lord was with me, but could find none that would believe the heavenly vision. Nevertheless, I pondered these things in my heart. About that time, my mother Anne crossed out. But after many days, okay, hold on. Now, in this, he's saying he was telling people, but people just weren't believing him. So I feel like if we are to believe this account, then in the CES letter, when it says he wasn't telling anybody for 12 to 22 years, well, that's just not true, right? It just wasn't written down and publicized. Is this last page? This is longer than I expected. I fell into transgression and sin in many things which brought a wound upon my soul, and there were many things which transpired that cannot be written, and my father's family have suffered many persecutions and afflictions. And it came to pass, When I was 17 years of age, I called again upon the Lord, and he showed unto me a heavenly vision. For behold, an angel of the Lord came and stood before me, and it was by night, and he called me by name and said, The Lord had forgiven me my sins, and he revealed unto me that in the town of Manchester, Ontario County, New York, there was plates of gold upon which there was engravings, which was engraven by Moroni, spelled Moroni, and his fathers, the servants of the living God in ancient days, and deposited by the commandments of God, and kept by the power thereof, and that I should go and get them. And he revealed unto me many things concerning the inhabitants of the earth, which since have been revealed in commandment and revelations. And it was on the 22nd day of September, A.D. 1822. And thus he appeared unto me 3 times in one night, and once on the next day. And then I immediately went to the place and found where the plates were deposited, as the angel of the Lord had commanded me, and straightway made 3 attempts to get them. And then, being exceedingly frightened, I supposed it had been a dream of vision. But when I considered, I knew that it had not. Therefore I cried unto the Lord in the agony of my soul, Why can I not obtain them? Behold, the angel appeared unto me again, and said unto me, You have not kept the commandments of the Lord, which I gave unto you. Therefore you cannot now obtain them, for the time is not yet fulfilled. Therefore, thou wast left under temptation, that thou mightest be made acquainted with the power of the adversary. Therefore repent and call on the Lord, thou shalt be forgiven, and in his own due time thou shalt obtain them. This is page 5. How many more pages we got? Okay, looks like page 6 is the last one. Okay, so it's now we're getting to Angel Moroni comes, tells him to go get the plates. He is sinning in some way. I believe in the Saints book, it talks about how he set them down and didn't look at them for a second while he was trying to cover the thing, or he was thinking of maybe selling them and getting rich. Either way, he can't get them now. He has to come back another time. And now I had been tempted of the adversary, and sought the place to obtain riches. Oh, here we go. He says it right there. And kept not the commandments that I should have, an eye single to the glory of God. Therefore I was chastened, and sought diligently to obtain the plates, and obtained them not until I was 21 years of age. And in this year I was married to Emma Hale, daughter of Isaac Hale, who lived in Harmony, Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, on the 18th of January, A.D. 1827. On the 22nd day of September of this same year, I obtained the plates. And in December following, we moved to Susquehanna by the assistance of a man by the name of Martin Harris, who became convinced of the vision and gave me $50 to bear my expenses. And because of his faith and his righteous deed, the Lord appeared unto him in a vision, and showed unto him his marvelous work, which he was about to do. And he immediately came to Susquehanna, and said the Lord had shown him that he must go to New York City with some of the characters. So we proceeded to copy some of them, and he took his journey to the eastern cities and to the learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And the learned said, I cannot. But if he would bring the plates, they would read it. But the Lord had forbade it. And he returned to me and gave them to me, saying, And he returned and gave them to me to translate, and I said, I cannot, for I am not learned. But the Lord had prepared spectacles for to read the book. Therefore I commenced translating the characters, and thus the prophecy of Isaiah was fulfilled, which is written in the 29th chapter concerning the book. And it came to pass that after we had translated 116 pages, that he desired to carry them to read to his friends, that peradventure he might convince them of the truth thereof. I inquired of the Lord, and the Lord and the Lord said unto me, that he must not take them. And I spake unto him, Martin, the word of the Lord. And he said, Inquire again. And I inquired again, and also the 3rd time. And the Lord said unto me, Let him go with them, only he shall covenant with me, that he will not show them to only but 4 persons. And he covenanted with the Lord that he would do according to the word of the Lord. Therefore he took them, and took his journey unto his friends in Palmyra, Wayne County and state of New York. And he brake the covenant which he made before the Lord, and the Lord suffered the writing to fall into the hands of wicked men. And Martin was chastened for his transgression, and I also was chastened for my transgression, for asking the Lord the 3rd time. Therefore the plates was taken from me by the power of God, and I was not able to obtain them for a season. And it came to pass, after much humility and affliction of soul, I obtained them again. When Lord appeared unto a young man by the name of Oliver Cowdery, and showed unto him the plates in a vision, and also the truth of the work, and what the Lord was about to do through me, his unworthy servant. Therefore he was desirous to come and write for me to translate. Now my wife had written some for me to translate, and also my brother Samuel H. Smith. But we had become reduced in property, and my wife's father was about to turn me out of doors, and I had not where to go. And I cried unto the Lord that he would provide for me to accomplish the work whereunto he had commanded me. All right. So we just read the 1832 account. Let's close that. And we... Oh, dang it. That's not what I wanted to do. All right. Back to this. Back to finding where I was. Okay. This is what I wanted to do. Okay, but the page is not found. Great. Okay, so there's two 1835 accounts. How do I find these? Okay. Here's one 1835, and is this the other one? It says 1834 through 1836, so it's probably these two. So let's check out this one. Okay. Why is it starting me on page 23? What is this? Is this just where it's found? I don't know if this is helpful to me. You know what? Aren't these... Hold on. I know... Or is the Gospel Library different? Gospel Library. Because I know you can find them on the Gospel Library. Welcome to the Gospel Library. We're going to find these. What? Or is it? Should not be this difficult. Is it under accounts? Accounts of the first vision? No. What is this? Libraries. Gospel Library. Okay. Is it under topics and questions or history? First vision accounts. Dude. I know I've been on the Gospel Library on my phone, and I know that you can just go in and read them. Okay. Finally. Goodness gracious. Okay, the 1835 account, which is much shorter. Thank goodness. Okay, this is a journal entry. 9 through 11, November 1835. Being wrought upon in my mind respecting the subject of religion, and looking at the different systems taught the children of men, I knew not who was right or who was wrong, and considering it of the first importance that I should be right in matters that involved eternal consequences, being thus perplexed in mind, I retired to a silent grove and bowed down before the Lord, under a realizing sense that he had said, if the Bible be true. Ask, and ye shall receive. Knock, and it shall be opened. Seek, and ye shall find. And again, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to men liberally and upbraideth not. Information was that I most desired at this time, and with a fixed determination to obtain it, did I read that right? Information was that I most desired. Okay, yeah, I did read that right. I called upon the Lord for the first time in the place above stated. Or in other words, I made a fruitless attempt to pray. My tongue seemed to be swollen in my mouth so that I could not utter. I heard a noise behind me, like some person walking towards me. I strove again to pray, but could not. The noise of walking seemed to draw nearer. I sprung up to my feet and looked around, but saw no person or thing that was calculated to produce the noise of walking. This one talks a lot about Satan. Okay, I kneeled again. My mouth was open and my tongue liberated, and I called on the Lord in mighty prayer. A pillar of fire appeared above my head. It presently rested down upon me, and it filled me with joy unspeakable. A personage appeared in the midst of this pillar of flame, which was spread all around, and yet nothing consumed. Another personage soon appeared, like unto the first. He said unto me, Thy sins are forgiven thee. He testified unto me that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And I saw many angels in this vision. I was about 14 years old when I received this first communication. Okay, so my question here is, it says 2 1835 accounts. I can only, on the Gospel Library, it's only given me this one 1835 account. But we'll have to make do, I guess. If no one's gonna, if the CES letter itself is gonna claim there's 2 accounts here, but not provide them to me, I don't know what more I could do. 1838 account. Oh, and second-hand accounts here. Sweet. Okay, we'll get to that. 1838 account. Oh, is this the official account? It appears. Oh, I'm not reading it like that. Come on. Are you kidding me? Oh, okay, finally. Okay, and it's marked the section here. Goose. My dog. Okay. Sometime in the second year after our removal to Manchester, there was in the place where we lived an unusual excitement on the subject of religion. It commenced with the Methodists, but soon became general among all the sects in that region of country. Indeed, the whole district of country seemed affected by it, and great multitudes united themselves to the different religious parties, which created no small stir and division amongst the people, some crying, Lo here, and others, Lo there. Some were contending for the Methodist faith, some for the Presbyterian, and some for the Baptist. For notwithstanding the great love which the converts to these different faiths expressed at the time of their conversion, and the great zeal manifested by the respective clergy who were active in getting up and promoting this extraordinary scene of religious feeling, in order to have everybody converted, as they were pleased to call it, let them join what sect they pleased. Yet when the converts began to file off, some to one party and some to another, it was seen that the seemingly good feelings of both the priests and the converts were more pretended than real. For the scene of great confusion and bad feelings ensued, priest contending against priest and convert against convert, so that all their good feelings one for another, if they ever had any, were entirely lost in the strife of words and the contest of about opinions. I was at this time in my 15th year. My father's family was proselyted to the Presbyterian faith, and 4 of them joined that church, namely my mother, Lucy, my brother Hiram and Samuel Harrison, and my sister Sophronia. During this time of great excitement, my mind was called up to serious reflection and great uneasiness, but though my feelings were deep and often poignant, still I kept myself aloof from all these parties, though I attended their several meetings as often as occasion would permit. In process of time, my mind became somewhat partial to the Methodist sect, and I felt some desire to be united with them, but so great were the confusion and strife among the different denominations that it was impossible for a person young as I was, and so unacquainted with men and things, to come to any certain conclusion who was right and who was wrong. My mind at times was greatly excited. The cry and tumult were so great and incessant. The Presbyterians were most decided against the Baptists and Methodists, and used all the powers of both reason and sophistry to prove their errors, or at least to make the people think that they were in error. On the other hand, the Baptists and Methodists were in their turn, were equally zealous in endeavoring to establish their own tenets and disprove all others. In the midst of this war of words and tumult of opinions, I often said to myself, what is to be done? Who of all these parties are right, or are they all wrong together? If any one of them be right, which is it, and how shall I know it? While I was laboring under the extreme difficulties caused by the contest of these parties of religionists, I was one day reading the Epistle of James, 1st chapter and 5th verse, which reads, If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to men liberally, give to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. Never did any passage of Scripture come with more power to the heart of man than this did at this time to mine. It seemed to enter with great force into every feeling of my heart. I reflected on it again and again, knowing that if any person needed wisdom from God, I did. For how to act I did not know, and unless I could get more wisdom than I then had, I would never know. For the teachers of religion of the different sects understood the same passages of Scripture so differently as to destroy all confidence in settling the question by an appeal to the Bible. At length, I came to the conclusion that I must either remain in darkness and confusion, or else I must do as James directs, that is, ask of God. I at length came to the determination to ask of God, concluding that if he gave wisdom to them that lacked wisdom, and would give liberally and not upbraid, I might venture. So in accordance with this, my determination to ask of God, I retired to the woods to make the attempt. It was on the morning of a beautiful, clear day early in the spring of the 1820. It was the first time in my life that I had made such an attempt, for amidst all my anxieties I had never yet made the attempt to pray vocally. After I had retired to the place where I had previously designed to go, having looked around me and finding myself alone, I kneeled down and began to offer up the desires of my heart to God. I had scarcely done so when immediately I was seized upon by the power which entirely came over me, and I had such an astonishing influence over me as to bind my tongue so I could not speak. Thick darkness gathered around me, and it seemed as if for a time, as if I were doomed to sudden destruction. But exerting all my powers to call upon God to deliver me out of the power of this enemy which had seized upon me, and at that very moment, when I was ready to sink into despair and abandon myself to destruction, not to an imaginary ruin, but to the power of some actual being from the unseen world, who had such marvelous power as I had never before felt in any being. Just at this moment of great alarm I saw a pillar of light, exactly over my head, above the brightness of the sun, which descended gradually until it fell upon me. It no sooner appeared that I found myself delivered from the enemy which held me bound. When the light rested upon me, I saw two personages whose brightness and glory defy all description standing above me in the air. One of them spake unto me, calling me by name, and said, pointing to the other, This is my beloved Son, hear him. My object in going to inquire of the Lord was to know which of all the sects was right, that I might know which to join. No sooner, therefore, did I get possession of myself, so as to be able to speak, than I asked the personages who stood above me in the light, which of all the sects was right, for at this time it had never entered into my heart that all were wrong, and which I should join. I was answered that I must join none of them, for they were all wrong, and the personage who addressed me said that all their creeds were an abomination in his sight, that those professors were all corrupt, that they draw near to me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They teach for doctrines the commandments of men, having a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. He again forbade me to join with any of them, and many other things did he say unto me, which I cannot write at this time. When I came to myself again, I found myself lying on my back looking up into heaven. When the light had departed, I had no strength, but soon recovering in some degree, I went home. And as I leaned up to the fireplace, Mother inquired what the matter was. I replied, Never mind. All is well. I am well enough off. I then said to my mother, I have learned for myself that Presbyterianism is not true. It seems as though the adversary was aware at a very early period of my life that I was destined to prove a disturber and an annoyer to his kingdom. Else why should the powers of darkness combine against me? Why the opposition and persecution that arose against me almost in my infancy? So that is the official version that is in Joseph Smith history, a part of the Pearl of Great Price. Okay, 1842. Pretty short one. And this is a part of the Wentworth Letter. Nice. Is the Wentworth Letter where we get the Articles of Faith from? Oh, it is. Cool. When about 14 years of age, I began to reflect upon the importance of being prepared for a future state, and upon inquiring upon the plan of salvation, I found that there was a great clash in religious sentiment. If I went to one society, they referred me to one plan, and another to another, each one pointing to his own particular creed as the summum bonum of perfection. I don't know. Is that Latin? I don't know Latin. Considering that all could not be right and that God could not be the author of so much confusion, I determined to investigate the subject more fully, believing that if God had a church, it would not be split up into factions, and that if he taught one society to worship one way and administer in one set of ordinances, he would not teach another principles which were diametrically opposed. Makes sense to me. Believing the word of God, I had confidence in the declaration of James, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. I retired to a secret place in a grove and began to call upon the Lord. While fervently engaged in supplication, my mind was taken away from the subjects with which I was surrounded, and I was enwrapped in a heavenly vision, and saw two glorious personages who exactly resembled each other in features and likeness, surrounded with a brilliant light which eclipsed the sun at noonday. They told me that all religious denominations were believing in incorrect doctrines, and that none of them was acknowledged of God as his church and kingdom, and I was expressly commanded to go not after them, at the same time receiving a promise that the fullness of the gospel should at some future time be made known unto me. And that is the 1842 account. Second-hand accounts. Besides these accounts from Joseph Smith himself, 5 accounts were written by contemporaries who heard Joseph Smith speak about the vision. Read these accounts here. Is that what these are? I'm going to assume that's what these are. Orson Pratt. Oh, gosh, I don't want to look at this. How long is this? See, it's like plopping me in the middle of a book. I don't want to... Ugh. Let's try that again. This is the earliest published account of Joseph Smith's first vision of deity. It was written by Orson Pratt of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles and published in a pamphlet in Scotland in 1840. Joseph Smith Jr., who made the following important discovery, was born in the town of Sharon. Wait. We read this one, didn't we? No, we didn't. Sharon, Windsor County, Vermont, on the 23rd of December, A.D. 1805. When 10 years old, his parents, with their family, moved to Palmyra, New York, in the vicinity of which he resided for about 11 years, the latter part of the town of Manchester. Cultivating the earth for a livelihood was his occupation, in which he employed the most of his time. His advantages for acquiring... Can we skip to the first vision part? When somewhere about 14 or 15 years old, he began seriously to reflect upon the necessity of being prepared for the future state of existence. Okay, so this is when he reads James. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. From this promise he learned that it was the privilege of all men to ask God for wisdom with the sure and certain expectation of receiving liberally without being upbraided for so doing. This was cheering information to him, tidings that gave him great joy. It was like a light shining forth in the dark place, to guide him to the path in which he should walk. He now saw that if he inquired of God, there was not only a possibility, but a probability, yea, more a certainty, that he should obtain a knowledge. Are these highlighted parts are trying to lead me to the first vision, I think. Which all the doctrines, which was the doctrine of Christ, and which of all the churches was the church of Christ. He therefore retired to a secret place in a grove, but a short distance from his father's house, and knelt down and began to call upon the Lord. At first he was severely tempted by the powers of darkness, which endeavored to overcome him, but he continued to seek for deliverance, until darkness gave way from his mind, and he was enabled to pray in fervency of the Spirit and in faith. And while thus pouring out his spirit, anxiously desiring for an answer from God, he at length saw a very bright and glorious light in the heavens above, which at first seemed to be at a considerable distance. He continued to pray, while the light appeared to be gradually descending towards him, and as it drew nearer, it increased in brightness and magnitude, so that by the time it reached the tops of the trees, the whole wilderness, for some distance around, was illuminated in the most glorious and brilliant manner. He expected to have seen the leaves and the boughs, how do you say that word, of the trees consumed as soon as the light came in contact with them, but perceived that it did not produce that effect. He was encouraged with the hopes of being able to endure its presence. It continued descending slowly until it rested upon the earth, and he was enveloped in the midst of it. When it first came upon him, it produced a spectacular sensation throughout his whole system, and immediately his mind was caught away from the neutral object with which he was surrounded. Natural objects from which he was surrounded. And he was enwrapped in a heavenly vision and saw two glorious personages who exactly resembled each other in their features or likeness. He was informed that his sins were forgiven. He was also informed upon a subject which he had for some time previously agitated his mind, that all the religious denominations were believing in incorrect doctrines, and consequently that none of them was acknowledged of God as his church and kingdom. And he was expressly commanded to go not after them, and he received a promise that the true doctrine, the fullness of the gospel, should at some future time be made known unto him. After which the vision withdrew, leaving his mind in a state of calmness and peace indescribable. Some time after having received this glorious manifestation, being young, he was again entangled in the vanities of the world, of which he afterwards sincerely and truly repented. Cool. And then it's going to start talking about Moroni, so we'll leave it there. So that was Orson Pratt's retelling of the story. Down here we have Orson Hyde. Check out Orson Hyde's retelling real quick. How long is it? It's freaking long. I'm not reading all that. Joseph Smith Jr., the person to whom the angel of the Lord was first sent, was born on, he was born, he lived, he was 10 years old. His parents moved to Palmyra, New York. For almost 11 years he lived there. His only occupation was to plow and to cultivate soil. That's not necessarily true. I guess before the first vision, yeah. Because his parents were poor, had to feed a large family. Blah, 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 blah. When he received his 15th year, he began to think seriously about the importance of preparing for a future existence. But it was very difficult for him to decide how he should go about such an important undertaking. He recognized clearly that it would be impossible for him to walk the proper path without being acquainted with it beforehand. And to base his hopes for eternal life on chance or blind uncertainty would have been more than he had ever been inclined to do. He discovered the world of religion working under a flood of errors. Consequently, being attitude of faith. Where's the first vision part? Once again, he called upon the Lord with faith and fervency of spirit. At this sacred moment, the natural world around him was excluded from his view, so that he would be open to the presentation of heavenly and spiritual things. Two glorious heavenly personages stood before him, resembling each other exactly in features and stature. They told him that his prayers had been answered, and that the Lord had decided to grant him a special blessing. He was also told that he should not join any of the religious sects or denominations, because all of them erred in doctrine and none was recognized by God as his church and kingdom. He was further commanded to wait patiently until some future time when the true doctrine of Christ and the complete truth of the gospel would be revealed to him. The vision closed, and peace and calm filled his mind. What? What's this? To the meetings in the temple, blah blah blah. Joseph Smith, blah blah. Chains on her wing, and I would not. What is this? Joseph Smith bore testimony at the same time, saying that when he was a youth, he began to think about these things, but could not find out which of the sects were right. He went into the grove and inquired of the Lord which of all the sects were right. He received for answer that none of them were right, that they were all wrong, and that the everlasting covenant was broken. He said he understood the fullness of the gospel and from beginning to end, and could teach it, and also the order of the priesthood in all its ramifications. Earth and hell had opposed him and tried to destroy him, but they had not done it, and they never would. He revealed himself to me first when I was about 14 years old, a mere boy. I would tell you about it. There was a reformation among different religion denominations in the neighborhood where I lived, and I became serious and was desirous to know what church to join. While thinking of this matter, I opened the Testament promiscuously on these words in James, "Ask of the Lord, who giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not." I just determined I'd ask him. I immediately went out to the woods where my father had a clearing, and went to the stump where I had stuck my axe when I had quit work, and I kneeled down and prayed, saying, "O Lord, what church shall I join?" Directly I saw a light, and then a glorious personage in the light, and then another personage. And the first personage said to the second, "Behold, my beloved son, hear him." I then addressed the second personage, saying, "O Lord, what church shall I join?" He replied, "Don't join any of them. They are all corrupt." The vision then vanished, and when I came to myself, I was sprawling on my back, and it was some time before my strength returned. When I went home and told the people that I had a revelation and that all the churches were corrupt, they persecuted me, and they persecuted me ever since. Okay, so in this one, he's also talking about telling people directly after. It just wasn't being written down, it appears. He wanted to get religion too, wanting to feel and shout like the rest, but couldn't feel nothing. Opened his Bible to the first passage that struck him was, "If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not." Went into the wood to pray, knelt himself down. His tongue was closed, cleaved to his roof, could not utter a word. Man, is a shorthand? What is this? First easier, after a while, saw fire towards heaven, came nearer and nearer, saw a personage in the fire, light complexion, blue eyes, a piece of white cloth drawn over his shoulder, his right arm bare. After a while, another person came to the side of the first. Mr. Smith then asked, "Must I join the Methodist Church?" "No, they are not my people. All have gone astray. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. But this is my beloved Son, hearken ye him." The first drew nigher, rested upon the tree, enveloped him. Comforted, endeavored to arise, but felt uncommon feeble. Got into the house, told the Methodist priest, said that this was not an age of God to reveal himself in vision. Revelation was ceased with the New Testament. Oh my gosh, that one was weird to read. Okay. I kind of wanted to relook at this one for just a quick second. No, this is just brought me to the same place. I was hoping it'd bring me somewhere else. And I looked at... I looked at all of them, right? Okay. So let's close that. Close that. Close that. Close that. And this is what we've been looking at. So it's not going to be anything different. Okay, Wikipedia to end it off. Let's see what good old Wikipedia has to say about the first vision. Oh, it has the accounts right here. I should have freaking come here. Ugh, that's frustrating. Should have started with Wikipedia. Okay, the first vision, also called the Grove Experience by... I've never heard anyone call it the Grove... Oh, by members of the Community of Christ call it the Grove Experience. That's interesting. Refers to the theophany which Latter-day Saints believe Joseph Smith experienced in the early 1820s in a wooded area in Manchester, New York called the Sacred Grove. Smith described it as a vision in which he received instruction from God the Father and Jesus Christ. According to the account Smith told in 1838, he went to the woods to pray about which church to join, but fell into the grip of an evil power that nearly overcame him. At the last moment, he was rescued by two shining personages implied to be God the Father and Jesus, who hovered above him. One of the beings told Smith not to join any of the existing churches because they all taught incorrect doctrines. Smith wrote several accounts of the vision between 1832 and 1842, two of which were published in his lifetime. Consistencies of the account is a subject of debate whether variations are indicators of significant shifts in Smith's theology or are simply changing emphasis of minor details. The first vision is revered in the Latter-day Saint theology as the first step in the Latter-day Saint restoration, but it was relatively unknown to early adherents to the Latter-day Saint movement. Smith's experience was published in 1842 and canonized in 1880, but not emphasized in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints until the early 20th century. For Latter-day Saints, the first vision corroborates distinctive doctrines such as the bodily nature of God the Father and the uniqueness of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ as the only true path to exaltation. Story of the vision. Smith wrote or dictated several versions of his vision story and told the story to others who later published what they remembered hearing. Taken together, these accounts set forth the following details. Okay, this is like a compiling of them. Cool. Smith said that when he was about 12, he became interested in religion and distressed about his sins. He studied the Bible and attended church, but the accounts differ as to whether he determined on his own that there was no existing religion built upon the true teachings of Jesus, or whether the idea that all churches were false had not entered his heart until he experienced the vision. During this period of religious concern, he determined to turn to God in prayer. An early account says the purpose of this prayer was to ask God for mercy for his sins, while later accounts emphasize his desire to know which church he should join. Smith said he went one spring morning to a secluded grove near his home to pray. He said he went to a stump in a clearing where he had left his axe the day before and began to offer his first audible prayer. Jeez. All this reading gets me thirsty. Okay. He said his prayer was interrupted by a being from the unseen world. Smith said the being caused his tongue to swell in his mouth so that he could not speak. One account said he heard a noise behind him, like someone walking towards him, and then, when he tried to pray again, the noise grew louder, causing him to spring to his feet and look around, but he saw no one. In some of the accounts, he described being covered with a thick darkness and thinking that he would be destroyed. At his darkest moment, he knelt a third time to pray, and as he summoned all his power to pray, he felt ready to sink into oblivion. At that moment, he said his tongue was loosed and he saw a vision. Smith said he saw a pillar of light brighter than the noonday sun that slowly descended on him, growing in brightness as it descended and lighting the entire area for some distance. As the light reached the treetops, Smith feared the trees might catch fire. But when it reached the ground and enveloped him, it produced a peculiar sensation. His mind was caught away from the natural objects which he was surrounded, and he was enwrapped in a heavenly vision. While experiencing the vision, he said he saw one or more personages described differently in Smith's accounts. In his earliest written account, Smith said he saw the Lord. In diary entries, he said he saw a visitation of angels, or a vision of angels, that included a personage, and then another personage, who testified that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, as well as many angels. In later accounts, Joseph consistently said that he had seen two personages who appeared one after the other. These personages exactly resembled each other in their features or likeness. The first personage had light complexion, blue eyes, a piece of white cloth drawn over his shoulder, his right arm bare. In later accounts, one of the personages called Smith by name and said, pointing to the other, "This is my beloved son, hear him." Although Smith did not explicitly identify the personages, most Latter-day Saints infer that they were God the Father and Jesus. In two accounts, Smith said that the Lord told him his sins were forgiven, that he should obey the commandments, that the world was corrupt, and that the second coming was approaching. Later accounts say that when the personages appeared, Smith asked them, "O Lord, what church shall I join? Or must I join the Methodist Church?" In answer, he was told that all religious denominations were believing in incorrect doctrines, and that none of them was acknowledged of God as his church and kingdom. All churches and their professors were corrupt, and all their creeds were an abomination in his sight. Smith was told not to join any of the churches, but that the fullness of the gospel would be made known unto him at a later time. After the vision withdrew, Smith said he came to and found himself sprawled on his back. Background context. Smith was born on December 23rd, 1805 in Vermont, and in 1816 his family moved to a farm just outside the town of Palmyra, New York. In the first several decades of American society in the 1800s, there was a proliferation of religious options. During the Second Great Awakening, revivals occurred in many communities in the northeastern United States. The religious environment in the region where the Smith family lived was so intense, it is referred today as the Burned Over District. In the Palmyra area itself, large multi-denominational revivals occurred in 1816 through 17 and 1824 through 25. My daughter is stirring again. Within 8 miles of the Smith family farm, at least 4 Methodist, 3 Presbyterian, 2 Baptist, and several Quaker groups held regular meetings. Despite the large number of congregations, however, only about 11% of Palmyra residents belonged to any organized religion in 1820, which was in line with the national average. Besides organized religion, the Smith family was exposed to a number of other belief systems. A large, ill-defined group of early Americans had been lumped into the term Seekers. This group held a heterogeneous set of beliefs, including that religion with creeds were unnecessary and the apostolic church no longer was on the earth. Cutting folk traditions or folk magic was also prevalent in Palmyra, intertwined and considered congruous with Christianity. Deism, the belief that God exists but does not intervene in earth, also had a growing hold in American culture with the publication of Thomas Paine's popular book, The Age of Reason. Richard Bushman has called the spiritual tradition of the Smith family a religious melee. Like many other Americans living on the frontier at the beginning of the 19th century, Smith and his family believed in visions, dreams, and other communications with God. In 1811, Smith's maternal grandfather, Solomon Mack, described a series of visions and voices from God that resulted in his conversion to Christianity at the age of 76. He also had a vision where God told him that one of his descendants would be a prophet. Joseph Smith's mother, Lucy Mack Smith, had a believer's baptism early in her marriage, but did not formally join to any denomination early in her marriage. Joseph Smith Sr. was a combination of deist and seeker who was skeptical of organized religion but not irreligious. Before Smith was born, Lucy went to a grove near her home in Vermont and prayed about her husband's repudiation of evangelical religion. That night, she said she had a dream, which she interpreted as a prophecy that Joseph Sr. would later accept the pure and undefiled gospel of the Son of God. She also stated that Smith Sr. had a number of dreams or visions between 1811 and 1819, the first of which occurred when his mind was much excited upon the subject of religion. The first of Joseph Sr.'s visions confirmed to him the correctness of his refusal to join any organized religious groups. Smith's father additionally joined the local Masonic lodge, with Smith's older brother Hiram sometime shortly after arriving in Palmyra. Smith's older brother Alvin did not join any organized religion. Lucy said that after Alvin died in late 1823, she sought comfort in religion and formally joined the Presbyterian Church in either 1824 or 1825, along with her children Hiram, Samuel, and Sophronia. I'm getting fatigued. Dating the first vision. Smith never gave a specific date of his reported vision, but said it occurred in the early 1820s, when he was in his early teens. In the 1832 account, Smith said that from age 12 to 15 he was pondering the situation of the world in his heart, placing the vision in 1821. Smith's scribe Frederick G. Williams inserted into the 1832 account that it had occurred in the 16th year of his age, or 1821. In the 1838 account, Smith said the vision took place early in the spring of 1820. In both his 1835 and 1842 accounts, Smith wrote that it occurred when about 14 years of age. Historians have looked at contextual clues from the accounts to further narrow down the date. In the 1838 account, Smith noted the following events. Sometime in the second year after the removal of Manchester, they were in the place where they lived in usual excitement of religion. Usual excitement commenced with the Methodist, soon became general among all the sects. My father's family was proselytized to the Presbyterian faith. Four of them joined the church, namely those people. It was on the morning of a beautiful, clear spring day. It was on the morning of a beautiful, clear day early in the spring. Each of these details have been the subject of significant research and debated widely among historians, critics, apologists, and polemicists, sparking a variety of historical and theological interpretations. In the fall of 1967, the Reverend Wesley P. Walters published a pamphlet asserting that the unusual excitement Joseph Smith wrote of matched the Palmyra revival of 1824 and was anachronistic to the 1820 setting. Walter's pamphlet created a stir and provoked a strong response from scholars at Brigham Young University. By spring of 1868, BYU professor Truman G. Madsen organized around 36 scholars to respond to Walters and wrote to the First Presidency of the LDS Church that the first vision has come under severe historical attack. Walters' thesis and the subsequent response has framed the historical debate. I don't really want to read about their move to Manchester. We've already covered the dates of the revival being before and after, in 1817 and 1824. So I'm gonna skip those. Recorded first vision accounts. We read these. Make sure that I'm not missing any. Wait. This is talking about the angel Moroni. We read Pratt's, we read Wentworth, okay. Okay. As much as I would like to keep reading, I've got to go to bed because I've got to go to work tomorrow. But thank you for joining me. I don't think anyone actually joined me, but maybe someone will watch this in post. If you do, thanks a lot. Join me for the next time we try to study a little bit about the church and the gospel. I will also say, I'll end it with this. I've been to Palmyra. I have walked the streets of Palmyra. And those very same churches that Joseph likely was attending, the different sects and denominations, it literally is a different church on every corner. Literally. When I went there, I remember we stood in a four-way intersection where there was a different denomination on each corner, on all four corners, which I think testifies. And these are old buildings; these are not like new churches. I mean, they were still, doing their thing, but these are hundreds of years old. and it just impressed upon my mind like how much of a religious hotbed this place was. I then went to the Sacred Grove, and in there I had a wonderful experience. And I think that regardless of inconsistencies in the first vision accounts, I think that something miraculous did happen in that grove, in that wooded area. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. And I will see you next time.